Well, as you know, the BTM Club always brings you fantastic guests. And today is no less. We have 3 of 4 magnificent ladies who are here in London at the moment to promote the book, Ladies Behind the Mic. Women behind the mic. I apologize. Women behind the mic. We have LAJOYCE Brookshire. Welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
And of course, Janine Coveney.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have I pronounced that surname correctly?
Yes, Janine Coveney.
Coveney, okay. And, well, I don't want to say it, but my kind of favorite. LYNN M. Scott.
Hi, good morning.
Great to have you.
Too.
Great to have you all with us. Of course, Pam couldn't make it, Pam Rudden, who is the other lady who makes number 4. But I'll get her in on a later date on her own. Ooh. So, yes, she'll have me all to herself.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous.
Now, you came onto my radar on Wednesday when I came to Rich Mix, to the book promo, Women Behind the Mic.
Yes.
On Wednesday, and I was just blown away. Now, I have to say, I was blown away not only because I heard that music was the beginning for all of you. You all loved music from an early age. But when Queen LaJoyce said Sly and Family Stone, that's when I jumped up out of my seat, literally. Oh. For the simple reason, the first track I ever bought, I'll have to say as a child because it was 1971, yes. was Family Affair. So it was nice that, you know, I already felt that kind of connection with you guys. Now, tell me the impetus for the book, Women Behind the Mic. Whichever one of you, feel free.
Women Behind the Mic came to be as a result of watching many documentaries and biopics that were leaving out the women.
Right.
They were glaringly absent. And 3, I'll give you an example, is the New Edition biopic.
Right.
And also the Notorious film.
Yeah.
And Can't Stop, Won't Stop. The
Right.
documentary with Sean Puffy Combs. And so those 3 things got us really into action. I called my sisters and said, blow the dust off of your memories. It's time for us to put our memories down because, you know what? We were present. But if you let those stories be told,
without
we are
you.
erased. And
Yeah.
erasure is a problem across all professions, not just the entertainment industry.
Listen, erasure is a problem through history. Writing people out, you know.
Indeed. So it's time it stopped.
Yeah.
And we need voices of today to call it out when we see it.
Yeah.
And we're quite vocal women.
You don't say.
And this, our being vociferous, it needs to be documented because history should be public.
Absolutely.
So these books are volume 1, Word to the Wise, and volume 2, the hip hop edition.
Right.
This is now cemented in history.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing is, it takes somebody with the initiative to fight it and do something about it rather than just sit at home complaining about it. Well, they didn't include me. Why did they include us? You know?
So my co-creator, Michelle Joyce, and
Right.
we were doing a lot of that complaining one to another on the phone.
Yeah.
And then we said, let's stop this. Let's take action.
Right.
And so working in the entertainment industry, we know very well how to take action.
Yeah.
And we know how to get started. We know how to take something from nothing and make it global.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that with, in particular, Pam's story of Jodeci, when she brought them, she said there were just these hungry boys with, you know, a can of tuna and we need curtains. And yeah, I've got a photographic memory.
Oh, yes.
And And then we see the finished product. We don't see the person that was running out to do this, that, and the other for them. And you did say that you realized the blindingly obvious absence of women on all of these documentaries. Do you think it was intentional, or do you think it was an oversight? What's your feeling on the absence of women in these biopics, knowing the important role that they've played? Why were you left out? Have you any idea?
Oh, okay. So for me, I think it was intentional
Right.
because, to LaJoyce's point, particularly in the New Edition biopic, she speaks of a publicist in particular in that. And they casted a white man instead of the black woman who actually was the person that was there.
That's in Notorious.
So you can't, that can't be an omission. It's got to be deliberate.
Right.
And that's in my case because I was the Notorious B.I.G. I was his publicist from the beginning to the end.
Right.
And so if there would not have been a publicist in the movie, I would just say it was omission.
Yeah,
but to cast a white man as the publicist.
So basically, you were his publicist all the way through.
Yes.
And they cast a white man in your role.
In the film. Not my role. I was depicted as a white man.
As a white man, that's what I mean.
But I also...
So that would be omission, right?
Yeah.
But deliberate omission.
With intention.
Correct.
Not only changed the color, you changed the gender.
That's right.
So it means you don't really want women involved in this journey.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it is societal. I think it is cultural to continue to erase women, particularly women of color. So often we are the ones in the trenches doing the work that has to be done behind the scenes. And they're so used to this unseen groundwork, the work that we put in, the ugly details that no one else really wants to do. We're so used to grinding, and people are used to just seeing us as part of the scenery that they don't have to acknowledge us or highlight us. I think it's just across the board. So Women Behind the Mic is really an opportunity not only to put the spotlight on women in the music industry, but women behind the scenes in general, and how much goes into the making of these artists. All the little many details and, nook and cranny jobs that have to be done, and we do them with alacrity and with excellence, and and people don't necessarily acknowledge that because we're
this
not
is it
in the
because
C-suite.
they don't see all of the making of the artist. I will say in this state, whether it be a black woman underneath supporting, they don't see that. We just see the finished product. We have no idea how they got there.
No.
Yes.
We have no idea. But what I liken y'all's journey to is the home, because ultimately we all know it's the woman who's got it going on at home, right? She's the one who does the shopping, does the budgeting. She's the one who gets the kids' school uniforms ready. She chooses the children's schools. It's still the women who are underpinning and supporting.
And I promise you, this is what we're doing in the entertainment industry as well.
Absolutely.
And I'd love to share like a story just that's recent. For me,
Please
I was
do.
working with a really popular female rap artist. And my boss at the time was giving me all of this grief. Oh, you shouldn't be doing this. Why are you wasting your time? Why are you doing this? I got her on the XXL cover. We got a tour. We had all these things, amazing things happening. Meanwhile, I was getting all of this negative feedback. When it comes time for the Billboard hip hop R&B players, right? There are two men who I work with who were not responsible for the success that this artist was seeing. They were placed in the magazine. I was not. They were placed in based off of my work, not based, and I wasn't included.
Just a question: what role did they play?
They didn't. One was on the distribution side, so he wasn't playing a role. The other one, as a matter of fact, we would sit in meetings and he would say to me all the time, why are you wasting your time? This isn't going to go anywhere. Why are you doing that? And I'm like, no, we're
part of the process.
So I was getting all of this negative feedback, but meanwhile, the successes that I helped achieve with this artist were the ones that they were talking about in their interviews in the Billboard Hip Hop and R&B Players issue that had come out, and I wasn't included.
But you see, the question is, why were they even included on that level when they weren't acting on that level? You were. Why were they even included in the interviews?
Because executive leadership included them in the magazine. So when those magazines, when those lists are putting together, you have to pitch for them.
Right.
And so I wasn't even included in the pitch. And so when I read the story, and I'm like, how did this happen? And guess what I got? Oh, we're sorry. You know what? That was an oversight. We shouldn't have done that. And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me?
That's intentional.
This is
That's
my work.
calculated.
Yes.
It's
This is my work.
Yeah.
This is what happens over and over.
And it's no point even asking you how you felt about that, because I can imagine how you
I was pissed.
Beep, beep, beep.
I was very upset.
Yes. Yeah, you know, and so what do you do in that situation?
There's nothing to do. The magazine's out, printed. They've gone to the awards dinner. There's nothing. All you can do is what we do. Write it in the book. Hope someone will ask, you know, the people who were there who know, they'll say, why did that happen to you? They know, but it happens repeatedly. Mm-hmm. It also makes you start to question, are you effective in what you're doing? Right? It does. It causes you to just think.
Self-doubt.
Yes.
However, in come the sisterhood.
Yes.
This is where we validate one another.
Yes.
This is where we uplift each other. Girl, you did that. Lynn, don't you worry. Janine, that story was fire. Girl, that's because I'm taking you to dinner. Because of that story that you wrote in the magazine, oh my gosh, everyone in the office is talking about it. Oh, thank you so much. So we uplift one another, and it's the sisterhood that has sustained us when others in the industry have shunned us or made every attempt to shun us. Because in this male-dominated industry, what we have to be cognizant of is at the end of the day, it's my sister to the left and to the right.
That's right.
And period. That's full
But
stop.
you know what? It's a wonderful thing. It's quite rare that people have that idea of supporting each other, because it's that kind of dog-eat-dog attitude that a lot of people have. And I liken your sisterhood to a lot of actresses, and I should now call them actors, because you're not supposed to say actresses anymore, that are friends of mine in London, and they're prolific. But the same thing, you know, it's that, well, we want one, we can't have two, and that can actually make you pit each other against each other. But they don't do that. They go to the auditions together, they go to the castings together.
Yes.
They, you know, we're happy for whoever gets the job.
That's right.
Because a win for one is a win for all.
Yes, it
That's
is.
And
We
it's
can't subscribe to that, right? We cannot subscribe to that.
Yeah.
We have to inoculate it by sticking together.
Yes.
We are better together.
absolutely.
Yes, we
So, you know, if you get the job, we all are happy.
That's right.
And we come and see your show.
That's right.
And we support your show. And we celebrate
It reminds me of when I first came to Billboard. I had been at Billboard as a copy editor, and then I was elevated to the spot of R&B music editor. I still didn't really know people in the industry. The first major convention that there was, all of the black women working within the music industry, whether they were publicists or promotion people, video people, I didn't even know these women yet. They saw me as a young woman of color coming into a position of power within Billboard, and they threw me a huge reception, and it was the most wonderful thing. I met everyone in the industry on that day, and I have to say that it has been black women that have helped my career. You know,
because you came from Essence.
I did come over from Essence magazine.
Yeah,
I did.
And what made you make the transition from Essence to Billboard? Because Essence is more fashion and beauty and
fashion and beauty. I was then known as the careers editor, so I was writing about education and careers. I left that magazine for a little while, and I had a job that I didn't like as much, but I always loved music. I knew a lot about music. I was one of the same people who read those liner notes and knew all the musicians and the producers, and I could tell you all the lyrics to all the songs. So I actually saw an ad in the newspaper, the New York Times. They need a copy editor, and I had been a copy editor.
It was as simple as that.
Yeah. I interviewed on a Wednesday. I got the job on a Friday, and I left my other job and was in that office on Monday.
And it's funny you say that, because we grew up in an era where it was about the album cover with the footnotes and the, when talking about myself just for a second, not too long, but when I interview artists, they'll say to me, "Oh my God, you've done your research." And I think, I didn't do any real research. I've been reading these since I was about 7 or 8.
Yes.
So I know the engineer, which studio it was in, who produced it.
Yes.
We're lucky in that way. So you had your backup.
I did.
Without even trying. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not like you were having to research a lot more.
No, and I've always been interested in artists as people. What drives their artistry?
Yes.
How do they create what they create? But I think what we understand working in the industry, that they are people. They are 360-degree people with families. They need their finances looked after. Sometimes they have to be schooled in etiquette. They need to be, and LaJoyce knows all about this. LYNN knows all about this. And particularly, I think there's something to be said about artists of color. We want to take them under our wing. We want them to
so
succeed.
that when you see the finished product for the public, it looks a certain way. They sound a certain way. You're, as we say, representing.
That's right.
Exactly. So we want them to represent well. And even as a journalist, and maybe this isn't correct to say, and I've always said this, but sometimes people would say things in an interview, and I would say, no. You don't want to say that. I'm going to pretend that you didn't say that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you the question again, because that wasn't a strong answer. That wasn't something you want people to know. And I'm looking out for you.
But you see, it's that, what should we say, the unawareness.
That's correct.
They're unaware. We assume that because we finally see them in the public eye, that they've come from, Harvard or wherever.
But there's a level of trust, you see. So we could trust our artists with Janine for these reasons.
Because she will look out for them.
Because she would look out for them. And before I was a publicist, I was a radio producer.
Right.
And I was a writer for weekly shows and information and entertainment vignette programming and long-form programming. And when I would
all just went above my head. Let me tell you. Okay. I'm not even going to
vignettes
pretend
and the
to know.
tiny programs, a 1-minute program, a 30-second informational wrapped around a 30-second commercial.
Right.
Long-form programs, 1 hour or longer.
Can you stay in London and be my producer? This all sounds so good.
And I love radio. Radio is this drug for me. And when you start building this trust within the industry, people know that the other people working at the other labels and other networks, they know that they can trust you. For instance, I was the first person to interview Mariah Carey.
Okay.
Because she was green, she was new, and Cynthia Beatty Rivers, and I call my sisters names because nobody else does. So Cynthia Beatty Rivers was vice president of publicity at Columbia Records when Mariah was signed, and she said, we did our best to try to get her media trained, but I want to bring her to you first. I know you'll be gentle, and I know that you won't air anything that makes her sound crazy. If she says something crazy, I know that you'll ask her to reframe. And that's exactly what happened, and we have a beautiful picture to capture our first day together.
So let me know your journey. Your first job was what? It wasn't in anything to do with what you were doing towards the end.
No, but that's a part of the journey. It's
building you to where you are.
Correct. My first job was in radio. I was doing news on the amazing AM 95.
You hear that voice? You are not going anywhere. You're staying here to school me. This woman needs to school me. We are on there. I love it.
I love it.
In Chicago. That was my first, and it was WJPC,
right.
Johnson Publishing Company, the family that owns Ebony and Jet and
you went straight in at the top, girl.
Yes.
You went
well, I wrote a letter.
Really?
I wrote a letter to the programming director when I was in college, and I sent an air check because I used to do the radio, do the news at college. And I told him I was a native of Chicago. I was going to be home on spring break, and I'd like to meet with him because I needed an internship. And the lady called me and scheduled an appointment. And I told him that I write news and I do commercials. He said, really? He said, you write news and you do commercials. He said, come with me. He took me to a production room. There were tapes on the table, copy on the table, stacked to the ceiling. He said, give her the 2 that need to be done right now. And he said, rip and read the next news thing. I said, okay. He thought I was going to panic. I rolled up my sleeves. I ripped that AP thing off the wire. And I wrote that newscast. And they threw me in front of the microphone. And I did the news. And then I did two commercials. One for Millie Jackson. And one for the Atomic Dog. Who was coming to, they were coming, George Clinton. They were coming to Chicago. And I did those two commercials, and they played them until the show came. And I was telling everybody, turn on JPC. I did two commercials. And then, then when I graduated, I came back and worked there for a while.
Okay.
Yes.
So your foundation really is in radio.
My foundation is seriously radio. My first experience was when I was 15. I did a radio television production class that was at the NPR station. Do you all have NPR? No. National Public Radio? But it's the intellectuals channel.
Yes, we probably do.
You probably do.
Yeah,
of course you do. And I worked there. I did that for 2 years in high school, and I was hooked.
Right. But what I love with you ladies is so articulate. You get every single syllable when you speak. The enunciation, it's perfect. And I love that because I love language. Yes. I'm kind of a wordsmith. I'm like, listen, there are all these words in the diary or in the, in the dictionary. Mm-hmm. You can use them.
Please.
We can all use them.
Yes.
They're there for us all to use. So you don't have to use just 4 words and expletives in between.
Absolutely.
But I love how you guys speak so clearly. It's a joy to listen to.
Well, communication is so important in our industry, and particularly, there's the concept of what is it when you speak one way with one set of people and another way with
code switching. Yeah.
So a lot of the companies that we've worked with, we didn't work exclusively in a black environment. We had to work with coworkers who were all races. And usually the owners were Caucasian, and the better they always compliment us. Oh, you're so well spoken,
as if they expect you not to.
I can't stand
you see, now that's annoying.
It's a microaggressive, actually.
It is, but then their feeling is, well, you speak our language, you speak the way we speak, so we trust you more. And it's just a fact of life. You have to be able to communicate at all levels to get ahead, to do what you need to be done.
Well, absolutely. The more people you can communicate with, the broader your world is, right?
Well, it was a little different for me simply because I spent the majority of my career in hip hop.
Okay.
So we created the Urban Dictionary.
Yes.
Would you call it ebonics? Is that the word?
Yes,
Ebonics.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everything was on the table except the N-word. In mixed company.
I love that. Well, I'm going to go to my favorite first and say, so what was your start? What was your first job, and how did it lead to you being where you are now?
Oh, so when I saw you on Wednesday, I like to share, there's a story before where I like to say that I started. Mm-hmm. So the story is I worked at an independent label called Sam Records. It was a non-paying internship. It was a disco label.
Yeah. Red Sam and blue label. I'm sure. The label is blue and the writing is red,
Potentially, I guess. I don't remember the logo. I just remember when they developed
expert,
nervous.
Let me tell you.
Okay, I'm not an expert because again, this is not where I like to tell where the start of the story is.
Yeah.
So I'd actually blocked it out until somebody told me to bring it up.
I wonder who that was.
I don't know.
Start at the beginning.
Right, there's the beginning and then there's the truth.
Indeed.
But anyway, so it was an internship, and I remember going in for the interview. I also saw the opportunity in a newspaper. My mom and my grandmother told me I had to get a job, and I told them I was going to get this job. Going into it, I did the interview. Michael Weiss, who was the person I interviewed with, he kind of gave me a rundown of everything that we were supposed to do. I was just like, oh no, you're looking for free labor. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to school. And so I wound up asking him, almost kind of telling him, if you want me, I'm going to need to get paid. And he asked me one question, and the question was, what radio station did I listen to? I grew up in New York. And I said, WBLS, Frankie Crocker. Did not know that was his best friend, and that's why he hired me. So that's where the story begins. The story that I tell, with where it all started for me for real, was working with Queen Latifah at Flavor Unit.
Right.
That's where it started for me, because I mean, it's Queen Latifah. It's a much better story.
Absolutely. Well, that's a pretty good start.
It
but
is.
there was something before that led you to Queen Latifah, right?
There is. I mean, there is. But literally starting, I like to tell her I carry the DNA of Flavor Unit and Queen Latifah in me. So when you see her, I think she's an amazing global talent. She's a multi-hyphenate. And I find myself living and operating with that same DNA.
Right.
Plus we kind of look alike. Big girls rule.
It's true. There's something. There is something. I know what you mean. You're not twin sisters, but there's something.
We're not.
Yeah.
But I adore her, and I'm thankful for the foundation and all that we achieved early on, because there was a lot of success that we achieved early on, and we wound up traveling. As a matter of fact, I haven't been back to London since then, which is kind of interesting. Working with Latifah, this is my first time back in London.
Well, it's now actually meeting you guys. That's why I thought, you know what? I'm going to have to bend myself out of shape to get these 4 women into the studio here.
So thankful.
Because I was blown away, really. I'm a bit of a fan of certain things, and I can't change that. But
fabulous, though. We get it.
I'm a bit of a
help
fan.
yourself.
You know what? This is part of the draw of the movement, because Women Behind the Mic, it is a movement.
Yeah.
And that fans alike are just wildly curious about what has transpired behind the scenes, and to hear our never before told stories that we're telling, because no one has given us space to tell it. These are things that we've just shared one with another, things that I just know about LYNN, or things that I know about Janine, or things that we've experienced collectively.
Right.
But no one has given us space to have a platform to tell these stories. The first time Women Behind the Mic got together to do a presentation was in 2017 at the Newark International Film Festival, because one of our sisters was the co-producer of that festival. And she said, we're doing several workshops. I think Women Behind the Mic need to do something there. And the director, the main person, said, who wants to come and hear a bunch of women talk about what they used to do in the industry? She went, what? So they gave us a small little room, and then as the RSVPs started coming in, they ended up moving us to a ballroom.
Right.
And it was standing room only. And I saw the guy walk past the window. Who
said that
to come into the room, and he looked like, oh my goodness.
He didn't expect it would be that successful.
And he stood in the back of the room like, with his hand under his chin, and was just looking around. He didn't even have a place to sit. Yeah. And I was like, nah. See, people want to know. So when you say that
I am a bit of a fan. And it's when you say that you work with Queen Latifah, and I've kind of liked her from the beginning as well, and you see the evolution to where she is now.
That's right.
And you're going, you were a part of that.
I was.
From, hip hop in African clothes to the best blow dried hair within an inch of its life.
Absolutely.
Within an inch of its life, doing CoverGirl for,
That's right.
And you're going.
And back at CoverGirl.
Yeah.
And she's back.
Oh, she's back at camera.
Yeah, she is.
You see, I'm
to
talking to the one who knows.
To your point, there was an authenticity, right? That was with Latifah and MC Light and all of those artists from back then. They walked in their truth. They said what they needed to say, and so, but they had the artist development that these ladies were sharing earlier, right? She can do an interview. They know how to show up and perform and be all of that greatness that they are. That is something that does not necessarily happen right now anymore. Artists have to invest in themselves. There are no, they
industry has completely changed.
It has
completely changed.
But the good news is that if that's really what you want to be, that the options are there. The people, the experts are there, right? The people who can make that happen are still there. I'm one of those people that are there. So, at the end of the day, I think authenticity still matters.
Absolutely.
It will always matter.
And talent
it will
still
always
matters,
matter.
right? You can't. The fact that Latifah can go from getting a Kennedy Honors Award to going to filming her TV show on CBS that's been renewed, to then go do a CoverGirl commercial, to then get on a stage and do a Hip Hop is 50 concert. I mean, You know, she's an
But it's it's the versatility of the individual.
That's
I mean,
right.
you look at her and because people would automatically think that, well, because she was a hip hop girl, she wouldn't be able to articulate. She wouldn't be able to go to cover girl.
That's right.
But that's the versatility and the beauty of it all for me.
That's right.
And I saw her perform her jazz album.
That's right.
Yep.
Right.
When I tell you,
I loved that
it
album.
was standing ovation city, and somebody screamed out in the middle one moment when it was quiet, UNITY. Someone from the audience, and she just kind of did a little
So I still remember that.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And honey, and then she said 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Skidoo-doo-doo-doo-doo. She glossed right over that, honey, and kept on with the next.
a true talent.
She's a true talent.
Yeah.
So
a true-
gracious.
Yes,
you know,
she is
just
gracious.
Absolutely. So Janine, what was your first job? Before Essence, I take it.
Well, the thing about me is I was always a writer. I didn't want to be anything else.
That explains the language. Thank you.
I wanted to be a writer from the time I was a young girl. It was all I ever wanted to be. And I loved music. I had always loved music. We had a lot of music in our home, and not just jazz and R&B, but a lot of classical music as well.
Yeah.
Because I think the previous generation grew up listening to a lot of classics and things like that, Rachmaninoff and Stravinsky and Tchaikovsky, all that stuff. So I was exposed to that as well. But I wanted to be a writer. So my first job out of college was working for a company called Scholastic Inc., which produces books and magazines for
it's
children.
all in the title, isn't it? Scholastic. It's all in the title.
It's used in curriculums in primary school, secondary school, high schools. And I went from being a secretary to being a book producer. So literally I would take the manuscript and mark it up for the printer to make sure that it was correct. I copy edit it. I would coordinate the art. I would get the cover art and the covers produced properly and get them sent to the binder. And I loved that job because it was coordinating all the different parts. I wasn't writing necessarily, but I just loved books.
Yeah.
So when I heard...
So were you always a reader from a child?
I was a reader and a writer. And I have a novel that I've been writing for years that these two ladies have been
coming out next year.
Yes,
It's called Blue Oasis.
Blue Oasis.
Oh,
And the
okay.
reason they know is I started writing it when I was a secretary at Essence. I would take all the used copy paper, turn it over, and type my novel when I was a secretary. So that's how long I've been working on it.
That's a long time.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
It's a novel about Harlem.
Okay.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So that was your first job, and then you went on to...
Yes, I got an opportunity I heard from a friend of a friend. They are hiring they need someone at Essence Magazine. And while I loved my job at Scholastic, and I think if this other opportunity, I never would have gone to Essence, I never would have gone to Billboard. I had to go to Essence.
Absolutely.
You know, because it is the
I want to go to Essence now.
It was the Bible of black women.
Yeah.
So I interviewed, I got the job, and I was plunged into this whole new world of everybody in the building being African American. 99.0 people on the staff were African American. And I got plunged into our culture because I had gone to an all-women's college that was not an HBCU.
Right.
I had gone to a high school that was not an all-black situation. So now I got to revel in our culture. I started wearing my hair natural. I started writing about our icons and our history and encouraging black women to start their own businesses. That was what I wrote about mostly, highlighting the stories of women who had become entrepreneurs. Yes. So I learned a lot about being at a magazine, about our culture, and how to write on deadline.
Yep.
Right. That's important.
Yeah.
Deadline.
But
what I love about the US, I have to say, for us here in the UK, specifically from back in the, say, 80s, when we were going into kind of show busy things as we did as models, dancers, whatever, we were always told to go to America.
Yes.
And we were told to go to Chicago because that's where everything black was.
That's right.
You know, Atlanta,
Yes.
everything, you know, everything black was there.
DC.
So we were really here struggling to do stuff and being told to go over there. I mean, we made it, but it was a much harder journey. And then, you know, I got to go over and do stuff. And yeah, we always looked up to, well, they've got all these magazines. I mean, we had two, Root magazine and Afro Hair and Beauty, which still goes. But you guys just had a plethora of magazines that were, you know, black oriented, so you could do commercials. You know, the world was open for you there. And it just wasn't that open for us here. We were still minimized. You know, we were still very much minimized. So how did you three actually meet? This is what I want to know. How did you come together as three? Let me tell you, well, you'll see, all three of them smiled at the same time. So it was obviously a good moment.
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely.
Well, I'll start since I'm the baby of the bunch. But
Yes.
I met Miss LaJoyce actually when I first started at Sam Records.
Right.
And we met, I want to say I went to one of the radio stations with one of our artists for an interview. I want to say that. But we had connected. She took me under her wing immediately and gave me the do's and don'ts. This is what I expect of you. This is what I don't expect of you. And there were a couple of things. We would go to events. One of the things that she had mentioned to me was this is work. You can hang out with your friends, but this is work. So don't go drinking, because, you know, there was always open bar. We went to fabulous parties.
Ooh, I can imagine.
Luther
I can
Vandross.
imagine.
Remember, he had that, it was a
Rooftop.
casino.
Oh, yes.
Like, it was, Luther Vandross on the money. There was the Whispers event at Rockefeller Center. I mean, they were fabulous parties. She was just like, don't get caught up. This is work.
Yeah, don't get dizzy and spin out with all of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it can be very intoxicating.
Overwhelming,
You can get there and you're just like, and you're in it, and there's, once you're behind the velvet rope, there is no additional velvet rope.
Yeah, I'll have another glass of champagne. I'll have another glass of champagne.
Exactly.
No, because Becky will have a job tomorrow and
right.
you will not.
I will not.
Absolutely, because you know Becky's going for those. Okay.
So you, and plus, I mean, sad to say, but our business, like a lot, it's predatory, right?
Yeah.
So I'm young and don't really know, and so
Cute.
yeah. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation.
She's still cute.
Oh,
She
thank
is.
you. You don't want to put yourself in a situation so
That you're
is-
compromised and
Absolutely.
give people ammunition to
Absolutely.
Because
there are, again, we're just gonna it's just friends talking. You can go forward and be successful in your career doing the work, or there are other things that you can do. One is fortified and no one can take it away from you, and the other one, not so much. And so a lot of what LaJoyce taught me early on, I carry with me, and that's what I use when I mentor. That's what, whether it's my daughters or whether it's the young women that I mentor now, currently, who are either in the business or aspire to be in the business, to make sure that they understand, again, have your one drink. I know it's free liquor because it's open bar. Babysit it. You're working. This is, everyone is looking. This is, you might not have your job tomorrow.
Yeah.
Somebody else will have their job tomorrow, and they could leave sloppy drunk. So it's really important. And so that's how I met Ms. LaJoyce.
because you've got to have, as women of color, a different kind of awareness and how you carry yourself when you're out in these
That's right.
situations, because people are always looking for that one little chink in the armor to use it against you. Yeah,
That's right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And my
And
mother always used to say, you know what, there'll always be another party.
That's right.
So don't go crazy.
That's right. So I would not give anyone a bullet to shoot me with.
Exactly.
So
There you go.
I had a mantra called, you've got to know when to leave the party.
Yeah.
And that is, you don't have to stay until the last song is played, until the last chair is pushed under,
Till
until
the lights come on, till the janitor comes with the broom.
You don't have to do that. And do your work and exit stage
That's
left.
right.
I
Right.
always had a car come for me at 10 p.m.
Regardless of what was going
Between
on.
9:30 and 10 without
Absolutely.
fail. I'm still the sleepyhead of the bunch, unless I'm staying up all night reading, sorry. And then, but that was my mantra. You've got to know when to leave the party.
Absolutely.
And it's that has also saved my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Indeed.
career.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you guys meet?
Oh, a long time ago. And
So you
far,
two knew
far
each other
away.
before you came into the picture.
I have
you
to
being the
say
baby.
that I just met Lynn
Yes.
here in London.
We did.
And me too.
And you and she's a revelation.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love her.
And now I'm her accountability partner to get
She
that book
is.
out.
That's right.
Yes, yes. But LaJoyce and I, we worked across the street from one another.
Sure did. One Times Square Plaza, the building where they dropped the ball.
Really?
And I was
Easy.
at 1515 Broadway, which is maybe a block away.
Oh,
but
TV building.
Yes.
yes. And okay, so the events, if you're covering music and entertainment, there is a circuit of the fabulous parties and events and interview opportunities that happened in New York.
So you were working across the road from each other. Where were you working? What,
I was at Billboard
at
magazine.
Oh, that you were at Billboard by then. And you were
And
where?
Sheridan Broadcasting Networks, the radio network.
Right,
Yes.
okay.
So we would see each other at all the same events.
Yes.
And I'm like, she's fabulous.
She's fabulous.
And so we became friends that way. We talked a lot. And in particular, I remember when we went to the Apollo Theater to see the trio After Seven, which was an R&B group consisting of two of Babyface's younger brothers
Yes.
and
Okay.
a cousin of L.A. Reid, produced by L.A. and Babyface. And they were wonderful. So we
Right.
went backstage and we have pictures of us with the group, and that's like one of the earliest pictures that I remember that
Yes,
we took together.
We both decked in our leather pants, and it was fantastic.
We're decked in your leather pants.
Oh,
I
yes,
love
we
that.
were.
Yes, we both had on leather pants. Yes.
Yes.
And fur coats. Go ahead, tell the story. They're fabulous. Fur coats and leather. Yes.
I'm from Chicago.
That's right.
Absolutely. Freezing cold.
Lots of fur.
Lots
You
of
don't-
fur.
It's not. You don't wear fur in Chicago because it's fashionable.
All right.
No, it's not just fashiony. It's you have fur or you freeze.
But that's what I mean. It's freezing cold
It's
in
freezing
Chicago. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, well. Well, these ladies, when did you actually write Women Behind the Mic? When was it written?
Women Behind the Mic has been written over the past couple of years.
Right. It's ongoing.
Because
there's an edition.
There are more volumes to come.
Right.
And Michelle Joyce and I, we contacted the sisters. Listen, we all have to stay
This is what I
accountable.
love.
Because Lynn almost missed
I did.
this volume.
Oh, really?
did.
And I was like, Lynn, if you don't get that story written, here's some prompts. Here,
Yeah.
she almost missed this.
I did.
I said, you cannot miss this.
Could you imagine if I missed it? I wouldn't have met you.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Her voice is so strong, and she's still doing the work, you see.
Right.
Yeah.
All right?
Whereas you guys aren't anymore.
We all took other paths, and,
Yeah.
I spent my 25 years in the industry.
Yeah, enough.
Enough.
It's sucked
Now
enough
it's
of
time
you.
to pass it on to the next generation. So that's when Women Behind the Mic was born. It takes about a year for all of it to get together to come out to a book.
Right.
And in the first volume, there are 22 women, and in volume 2, there are 21.
Right.
And our next volume will be The Bad Girls of Bad Boy.
And when is that due?
It will be out next year.
All right.
Yes.
So the first volume was written when?
One word to the wise. It was written 2023.
Right.
And we
okay.
launched at the Apollo Theater.
We sure did.
And yes, we
The
did.
famous.
The famous, to a sold out audience, all 1,200 seats, all booked up. We had students there and people seeking career options, because in addition to the fan base, Women Behind the Mic is for those who are looking for career explorations, mid-career people who want to make a shift and don't know how. Because we encourage people, if you have a skill, bring your video skill into the entertainment industry. If you crunch numbers, if you're a number cruncher, an accountant, bring your skill into the entertainment
Yeah,
industry.
because there's always a place
There's
for it.
always a place for you. It can sure have a whole lot more fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sales, if you've got sales skills,
Marketing, all of
marketing,
that.
all
Makeup
of it.
artist, choreographer.
But I think that's really what makes the strength. Bring people in to use their strengths to make this project great.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to say, well, you're an accountant, but I'm going to ask you to be a lawyer. Bring in your accounting skills.
Of
bring in
course.
your makeup skills. Bring in your recording skills. Bring in your whatever, and let's create something.
And our mission is to educate
Yeah.
those who are mildly interested. But imagine if we would have had something like this to guide us, Barry,
Yeah.
where we would have been in this industry from this age, from
Yeah.
the young adult in the room, that age. If we would have
I
had
always say that, you know,
something
even
like
with the
this.
entertainment industry now, there's always a talent competition or somebody to discover people and guide them. And it just didn't exist, you know, in the 80s and the 70s.
Well,
'cause-
nobody knew.
Yeah.
You just didn't know. Those roles were all there. You
They
just
were.
did not know.
Know about them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't know that you could have your discipline could be that of an accountant or estate planning, and then it's just like, oh, I can still be in the entertainment industry because there are people who actually need those services.
skills and services,
You need
yeah.
that skill set.
You don't have to sing.
Yeah, you don't have. And what I used to tell people when I worked at the major label, like for like a lot of the artists that would come in, they'd be like, "I pay your bill." I'm like, "No, we all get paid before you. You were the last person."
Okay.
Everybody gets paid before you. You got to do the work, but we all get paid first. So
And we're here to help you, not to be insulted.
I want to make sure that you know, you can return that money and you have some royalties so you can do it. But right now, this company is betting on you, and you've got all of this expert talent to try to make your dreams
Exactly.
come
Back in
true.
the day, that's what was called an advance, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
That's right.
And then at the end, they're going, well, where's all my money gone? Well, you've been spending
It's
it.
called recoupment.
That's right.
Yeah, you've been spending
the big
it.
payback.
That's right.
That's what it's called. And that's why we've written a curriculum. We have
A curriculum as well. What?
Yes, we've written a curriculum for collegiates and high schoolers, and we're currently in the New York City Department of Education
Right.
since last year, where we are teaching 3 different courses: the content of currency, backstage pass, and ready on set. Because, you know, all the kids have a camera in their face.
That's it
But
now.
are you framed well? Is your lighting good? Are you articulating well? Then content of currency is about monetizing, the process of monetizing your content and your intellectual property. To think about that now, because these people and advertisers are coming for influencers right now.
Yeah.
And you need to know what to say to them when they come for you when your numbers start to escalate. And Backstage Pass is a 8-week program that gives a little touch on promotions and marketing and writing and publicity and so that those who don't know about the industry, wow, now they leave there knowing. And then they also have an exercise of something tangible that they can put into their portfolios and take with them, and they will receive a certification at the end.
So you really are providing a manual as to how to move forward
Correct.
with what you're doing.
And this is so important. In my current role, I work for a company called Vidya. It is a end-to-end distribution company that really helps to power businesses. My role as head of label services, I'm looking for clients who have this kind of skill set. That's when we work best. We want to make sure that you understand how to power your business. We're the back end. So if you looked at a store, you have the storefront, the artist is the storefront. We're on the back end. We're behind. No one needs to see us. But
Yeah.
we can help power your business so you can be successful. But if you come equipped with this skill set, it just makes everything, because anybody who is running a business, you want to make sure you're surrounded with all, whether it's small or whether
With
it's
the right
big.
people, because it does
That's
make all
right.
the difference. It
That's
makes all the
correct.
difference. Well, we have to wrap this up now because this special lady here has got to fly back to the US today. So
I'm so sorry to leave. This has been so delightful.
it has been an absolute pleasure to talk to all 3 of you. Sorry Pam couldn't make it, but as I said, we'll try and get her in at a later date. So where are you all moving on to from London?
We are going to Scotland
Scotland.
for the Pitch Scotland Conference.
Right.
And we are so excited to be there and going to Glasgow. And this is a huge music conference that's held there annually. I
Okay.
participated last year via Zoom
Right.
because last year Janine and I came for the We Out Here Festival. We did We Out Here last year. It was fantastic.
It was incredible.
amazing.
It was great.
And then this year, Pitch asked us to come since we'd
Wow.
be in country
Wonderful.
Okay, this is easy this year.
We're also going to Manchester.
Yes, we are.
And we're also going to Nottingham.
Right.
So very
This is on the
excited.
book promo tour.
Yes.
All this is part of the book.
Everything
promo
is,
tour.
yes, Women Behind the Mic. We are everywhere.
And will Pam be joining you too?
Pam will be joining us at the Pitch Conference, and Lynn and I will be holding it down in Nottingham and Manchester. Manchester. Am I saying it correctly?
No, you said it correctly the first time.
Manchester.
Okay.
Manchester is absolutely fine.
Manchester. And I want to give a special shout out to Alana. She's a DJ here, known as Lonnie. She produced the entire thing. We love you, Alana. She's one of our sisters here who are also a woman behind the mic.
Right. Fabulous.
Can we make you one of our sisters too?
Yeah. You can make me whatever you want.
Man isn't woman.
Well, there we are.
Incorporated you anyway.
But I like that it's all women. I'm going on a bit now.
Yes.
I like that the sisterhood is women. But in your careers, and I think I asked you that question on Wednesday, have you never come across any men that you want to bring into the coven? Because if men are involved, then it can't be called the sisterhood. But are there no men that you've ever come across in your industry, in your years, that you thought, yeah, I want to bring you into the fold?
Well, they're in. There are some men who have taken exceptional care of us.
Right.
And some of us wouldn't be where we are today without some of them.
So they have to be mentioned too.
Oh, they are mentioned. And
Okay.
in fact, when we go to different markets, they have an opportunity to actually moderate us. For
Right.
instance, when we went to Atlanta, the fabulous David Linton, who is a general manager of a station in Atlanta, he moderated us, but he was a vice president of black music at Arista Records when I was there.
Well, there we are.
And he's like my big brother. And
Right.
we've had some very intense times together on the personal side, because when you're doing this work, you spend so many hours at work. It's sometimes hard to separate your personal things. Your personal things kind of bleed into it.
Yeah.
You try to be compartmentalized, and I was at a time. I'll just tell you a quick story. I had a husband who was terminally ill, and I told no one at work. And the day that they found out, on the black music side, the day that they found out, they called me into a meeting and said, "How is it that you have a husband dying at home and we don't know about it?" And the way that they called me into the meeting with such urgency, I thought I was about to be fired.
To be fired. They were actually
And I
calling you
said,
to support you.
Okay, all right. Because I need to be somewhere where nobody's looking at me strangely. I need to be somewhere
And pitying you
and
and-
right, pity, and I need you all to understand that I still do this work, and I'm going to need this job because he's dying.
Yeah.
And I asked him when we did our thing in Atlanta if he remembered that day. He said, "I'll never forget it."
Yeah. But that's beautiful that they actually called you in to support you.
To support me.
You know, but there's the thing, you know, as a woman in the industry, you were there thinking, well, you know, it's going to kind of compromise me because I might have to be taking time off.
That's
and
correct.
I
don't
need
this
them to
blow
know
my-
that I'm not going to let anything interfere with my work, which is not a great place to be.
It's true. And ask me how I know it's not a great place.
Because you've been there.
It bit you in the behind.
Yeah.
Eventually, it bit me in the behind emotionally trying to do this dance. So that's another conversation. We'll talk
Yeah.
But I will tell you, to your point, I don't find success without thinking of the men, right? Whether they're the artists, right? The male artists,
Yeah.
which in my book, chapter 13, Mic Check 13, where I talk about working with Shaquille O'Neal, where that's not possible, but the L.A. Reids of the world, Mark Gorman, Roy Lamont, excuse me, there are so many men that have been critical to my success. I needed them. But it was my sisters that were consistent. It was my big sisters that would be like, do better. It was the younger ones that I knew were looking at me and saying, okay, so I'm looking at you because as I continue to go through this, it is that the integration is so important. We really, really need each other. But a lot of these stories are about, how would I say, think of Instagram. Everyone posts a highlight reel. This isn't the highlight. This is not about a filter. This is about telling the story.
Yeah.
Telling the story of the cells and the connective tissue. People think about their bones and their skin and their hair. This is about the other parts of the DNA that really make the body work. And guess what? If your ligaments don't work, your tendons don't work, if you don't have any of that going, you ain't moving anywhere. So you need us.
It's the
women
machine
behind the
in
mic,
its entirety.
That's right.
That
That is
is
correct.
important.
But it does not happen without the men. And probably mostly with the male artists, because a lot of, like, LaJoyce tells her story about the male artist in her life, and same thing here, right? It's so important, and we really need each other. I think that's probably the biggest thing that people need to understand. We need each other, and our stories matter. Our experiences matter.
That's the truth.
And they can be useful to anyone.
In
That's
any
the thing.
They
can be useful to
Any
anyone. Every story can be useful
That's
to
right.
everyone, and that's
right.
the thing. Now I have to say, I keep calling her my favorite. It's not that she's my favorite, but she made me laugh on Wednesday when she was talking about where they were going on tour, on the book tour, and she said we're going to Manchester, and then we're going to Scotland, and then we're going to Robin Hood.
That was me.
Was it you? She said Robin Hood.
I'm saying what
She
I
said
really
something-
mean Nottingham.
She goes, we're going to Robin Hood.
Sherwood
What is she
Forest.
talking about? Robin
I
Hood?
said
Oh yes,
Sherwood Forest.
Sherwood
I said that.
No, it was
I said
But
I
still.
keep thinking Sherwood Forest, but it's
When she said we're
Nottingham.
going to Robin Hood,
Okay,
I was
I'll
on
be
the
Tinker
floor.
Bell Bell.
You're still my favorite though, don't worry. Okay, so let's have a quick list. One, who are the artists that you've worked with that we would all know and love?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I've interviewed pretty much everyone from the 80s on to the 90s. I had a brief stint at Arista Records as a publicist and as a production manager, where I worked with Usher when he was really young. I worked with Toni Braxton on her first album. I did a little bit with Whitney, and then I left. And then I moved to Los Angeles and I worked at Perspective Records. So we had Sounds of Blackness, the choir out of Minneapolis. We had Mint Condition, Pretty Brown Eyes. I worked with them, and we had other artists. But just to claim all of the people that I interviewed over the years, whose press bios I wrote, we'd be here.
You'd miss your flight.
However,
LaJoyce, a quick list.
I worked with Miss Aretha Franklin, Sean Puffy Combs, the Notorious B.I.G., Usher, Toni Braxton, Barry Manilow, Carly Simon, Kenny G.
I love it.
Yes, and Outkast, 112, Total. Oh, just to name a few. Those are just the Arista people, and as a radio producer, I had.
And I mean all
absolutely-
people that we love. And when
All
you
the people that
mentioned
you love.
Kenny G, I'm saying, yeah, everyone knows Kenny G. We love Kenny G. But do they know he was with Jeff Lorber Fusion
Jeff
in the beginning?
Lorber.
Hello.
And that was the album that got me through college. Jeff Lorber Fusion, and I saw him live at the Chicago Jazz Bulls, and so when Kenny, we had a lot to talk about.
I can tell you, when I interviewed Jeff Lorber, I couldn't even speak.
I know, right? I'm with you.
He's
so regular.
Stand out. He is regular.
It's so regular, ordinary. And he's looking at me going, are you okay? Okay, madam. Well, we know Queen Latifah.
Yes, we know Queen Latifah. That's the start. I've worked with everyone from Duran Duran to Enrique Iglesias to Jennifer Lopez to Beyonce and Kelly Rowland, Michelle. I'm trying to think. In recent times, I think your audience will care about this in Nigeria, but Mr. Easy, the Bang, Mins. I'm just trying to think. Rema. There's like some big artists that we've worked with. Sierra, MC Light.
I love her.
Yeah,
Love MC Light.
Yeah, we're excited. She's got a new album coming.
She's so smooth.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes on and on. Usher, we just put out the most recent Usher album that was independent. He was in Paris though, not here. I was about to say, he just did a thing here, but it was in
It was
Paris.
in Paris.
So because I'm on the distro side now, I mean, we have so many artists that we put out. We have a Robin Thicke album that's coming out.
Okay.
That's coming up close, but my list is like theirs.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now you see why I didn't get a good night's sleep, because I was doing research on these people and I was thinking, how do I interview these people? These are
Yeah, but they're regular people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what you
they're
always have to
regular
remember.
people.
They're regular people.
Beyonce and Jay-Z aren't regular, but everybody else is regular.
Well, they're regular. They do all the
For
same
another
things.
time.
Yeah, for another time. Well, thank you, ladies. It was a delight. Thank you for making
Barry.
time,
You're
Thank you,
awesome.
Barry.
etching
Appreciate
some
you.
time out of your
We want everyone
busy
to
schedule.
please get the book. It
yes.
is wherever books are
Absolutely.
sold.
Hip hop edition.
The hip hop edition. Words
Now,
of the Wise.
I'm showing you the two books here.
Yes.
You can get them on Amazon.
You can get them at Amazon.
Amazon.
And
That's
you can
right.
walk into any bookshop and ask for it. It's available.
There we go.
You can find it. They will order it for you.
Women behind the mic. I'm sorry I said ladies in the beginning because I see them as ladies, not just
I
women.
love it. Yes. Ladies who tea.
Yeah, indeed. And we can get these on Amazon, both the editions.
Yes.
Word to the Wise, first one,
Yes.
and the hip hop edition,
Yeah.
the second one.
Yes. We
Yes.
love you.
Thank you,
Barry.
Barry.
Thank you so much. It was a delight.
Thank you.
Safe
Awesome.
travels back, Janine.
Thank you.
And wonderful time with your tour.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much.
Take care, ladies. Thank you.
Bye
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Yeah.